Hi. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm doing that. Well, I'm so happy to see you all here. I have no idea what we're supposed to do, to tell you the truth. I assume that you have questions and you have things that you want to talk about that have to do with Transformers or what we do for a living. By we, I mean all of us guys, Dan and the other ladies and gentlemen that are parts of Transformers. Most of us that are here, I think, are Generation One. I am. And I think, I don't know, is Dan part of Generation One? Yeah. One thing I will tell you from the beginning is, it's kind of an odd thing. A lot of people, when they meet me, and they say, oh, you were the Transformers guy, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I should. Oh, talking to the microphone. Oh, yeah. Is that right? Oh, okay, sorry. When they meet me and they find out that I am part of the Transformers, they say, oh, what was it like working with, Peter Cullen and Dan and Subaru and all those other people? And I would say to them, I have no idea. And they would say, well, what do you mean? You're the narrator and they were all the characters. I say, well, here's the deal. They are in Los Angeles. I am in New York. So, well, how does that work? Well, I get a script in New York for, my narration part. And I do my narration part. And that script is then, that recording is then sent to LA, and it is incorporated with what the actors do with their characters. And the whole thing is then all put together, and that's what you see. And up until a couple of months ago, or maybe a year or so ago, I had never even seen any of those guys. And we had, it was a Zoom meeting. There were about 6 of them. Sue Blue was there, and Frank Welker, and who else? 3 or 4 others, 5 others. And we were on a Zoom call. And I finally got to meet them on a Zoom call. They had never seen me, and I had never seen them. And it was really kind of cool after 40 years, because I don't want to live in LA. I just don't. Now I live in Florida, but when I did the work back there 40 years ago, I lived in the New York area. So it's an odd thing that I had never seen these people, and yet my voice and their voices are all part of the same fabric that you guys hear when you hear the Transformers. So it's kind of an anomaly, really, but that's how it worked. And people would say, well, how come you don't know these people? No, never seen them. So based on that, what kind of questions do you have? Because again, you can't ask me questions about Peter Cullen or Dan or Sue Blue or anybody because I never met them. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was about to say, anyone who has questions, we can come to the mic. Dan, I'm told, is on his way now.
Okay.
But just to sort of start things off, we typically like to ask, how did you get started in the voiceover industry? And then from there, how did you get into Transformers?
Okay, well, I'll try to make this as short as I can. I was a professional stage actor, an Actors Equity stage actor. I did regional theater, dinner theater, summer stock, all that kind of stuff. And one day, an agent in Chicago said to me, young man, I was 26 then, she said, you have a nice voice. Have you ever done any voiceover? And I said, what's that? Because in 1968, nobody knew what voiceover was. Now everybody does. And she said, well, she gave me a piece of copy. And she said, read this to me out loud. So I did. And she said, do you have a tape recorder at home? I said, yeah. Then we had little 3-inch reels of tape. And so I did. And she took it around. I was living in Chicago at the time. And she took it around to advertising agencies in Chicago for them to listen to for commercials. And oddly enough, in 3 months, I was making a living as voiceover guy. Boom, it was like that. So I was still working on stage and doing voiceover. But pretty soon, voiceover kind of took over because I didn't really have much time to do much rehearsing. And in 1970, I was 28. I thought, you know what? There's New York over there, and that's where the big guys are. And I just had to see if I could play with the big guys in the big guys ballpark. I just had to do it. I had to go see if I could do it. And Dan. Hey, Dan.
Like this.
Well, we have met because our voices are entwined.
I know. When I saw you were going to be on this, I was like, this is crazy. You know how rare this is?
Yeah.
Bob,
Yes.
Victor, have you done one of these before?
No. I was in the middle of answering a question. Let me just finish the answer really quick.
Oh, yeah,
here.
go ahead.
So I was doing voiceover, and I said I wanted to go to New York from Chicago to see if I could play ball with the big guys in the big guys ballpark. And it turned out that I could, and I did very well. And as far as the Transformers go, but the way it works is you go to auditions for commercials, and you go to advertising agencies. So I went to this advertising agency, and I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember it. My wife asked me the other day, she said, what the advertising agency did, and if anybody knows, please tell me. Griffin McCall, thank you. Yes, Griffin McCall.
And the prize goes to this
Yes. Jay McCall, and yeah. Okay. Griffin McCall called. So I went to Griffin McCall for an audition for a Hasbro toy. So I went, and I won. I got the audition. And I did it, and it turned out to be a Transformer toy. And so I did that.
Was it for a toy commercial?
Yeah, it was a toy commercial, yeah. So I did that one, and then they called me back for another one, and another one, and another one. And then they said, well, listen, Hasbro is doing they're going to do a cartoon show based on all these characters of these toys. Would you do that? I said, well, okay, yeah, I'll do the cartoon show. And then in 1986, they said, we're going to do this movie, this Transformers movie. Would you narrate the movie? And I said, sure, I'll narrate the movie. So now all of us, when we did all this stuff, we had no idea that this was going to happen. For us, it was job. It was what we did for a living. And so we did it. And then, we would move on to the next studio and do whatever the next job was or whatever it was. And there was no internet. There was no Google. And then when Google came out, because first thing we all did, right, we all Googled our names, right, to see what kind of stuff was going on. And I figured, well, with a name like Victor Caroli, well, maybe some arcane Italian physicist would show up or something. So instead, all this stuff shows up about Victor Caroli and the narrations and this and the Transformers and all this other stuff. I thought, whoa, what? I had no idea. Did this happen to you, Dan?
You mean find out about conventions?
Discovering that this was, when you did it,
yeah,
you had no idea this was
right.
You had no idea.
Well, the first time I did it was the first convention I think I did when it was a room like this, and I was like, oh, people like it.
Yes. But I'm just saying that when you actually did the job, when you were in the recording studio,
we had a great time, but it was a job.
Yeah, it was a job, but it's what you did for a living, and that was it, right? And
Victor is like the missing man. Did you ever see the movie The Missing Man? Victor's like the missing man because you recorded all your stuff in New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we never met him. This is the first time I've ever met this gentleman, and yet we are tied to this project together. See how strange the world can be? Beware.
We are fooling you all the time.
Yes. All right, are we doing questions?
But yeah, we're doing questions. So if you have any questions for me or Dan, go ahead. So that was my story about how I got into how Hasbro and all that stuff happened. So that was it on that question.
God came down and touched me, and that's how I got into it. I'm a gift from God.